Well, we were going to go over to Garage Mahal and show you guys the progress on the railroad over there and some of Karen's projects and Steve's railroad. And we are going to do that, but not right now. We were given some video by Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
Old video of them running the Uintah 50 out on Vance Railroad where we've been for the last 2 weeks. And it's like, well, there you go. So it's really neat. It's just, it's home movies in a way. It's just them shooting with an old video camera, an actual real life video camera.
Right.
Running that huge steam engine on the railroad out there. So that is what we want to show you guys this week. The Uintah 50 on the world's largest backyard railroad. So this is a map of Vance Railroad again.
Which is huge.
We're pretty sure this is the world's largest just privately owned hobby railroad that somebody's built for themselves, over 10 miles. But as I've mentioned, this very first mile of track I helped Van lay back in 1996.
That's a while back.
That's a while back, and we laid that over some pretty rough terrain up on the top of this ridge. And then after I moved to California, well, he just expanded it.
He kept going.
He kept going, and a lot of that track is up on top of some pretty rough-looking terrain as well. Terrain? Anyway, now this is that steel bridge that he and I set in place clear back then.
Wow.
And that was no mean feat, putting this up. And you'll notice he's built a wood pony bridge right next to it.
Oh, why?
Because it's neat.
Well, of course.
So these are two of the major features on the railroad, the two bridges over the cut, and then two tracks go down below. But look at the terrain. It's steep and it's windy, and in largest part because his favorite railroad is the Uintah Railroad.
Interesting.
And that railroad had 7.5% grades.
Wow.
And 150-foot turning radiuses at one point. So it was called the crookedest railroad in the world.
Yes.
And this kind of looks a lot like it, I think.
Quite a bit.
Now, we did a show on the Uintah quite a few years back when we went and ghost tracked it with Adam Pinellas. And I'm not going to put a title card here. Normally I've been doing title cards, and one of the subscribers says, why don't you just put links in the description? And it's like, you know what, that's a much better idea. So that's what I'm going to do. There's links in the description to the other movies that we've done about Vance Railroad and about the Uintah. But look at this thing. I once asked Van, I said, are we building a railroad or are we building a roller coaster?
That's what it reminds me of, is a roller coaster.
It's a lot like one. Now, a lot of the railroad looks more like this. It's a much more tolerable sort of flat railroad. They call that other section the mountain division or the mountain loops. But a lot of the railroad and our ride was up to the pond. And there's really nothing extreme about going up to the pond. That's a 4-mile loop up and around.
Right.
You know, and actually, given that this is a 2.5-inch to the foot scale railroad, and it has 10 miles of track, this thing has almost the same amount of track as the Uintah Railroad had, too.
So.
It's just amazing when you think about it. But speaking of the Uintah Railroad, the flagship locomotive is the Uintah 50.
Neat.
Isn't that
That's cool.
That's amazing. Now, these are old home movies that they gave us just to use in the show, but look at that. He modeled Uintah number 50, the big articulated engine that ran on that railroad back then. Most of the locomotives were shays because of the extreme nature of the railroad, but they had two of these huge, flexible, articulated narrow gauge engines.
The other day it sounded real good. I think he's just got water in it now. Get it?
Oh, look, there's Ralph's model of 844.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that the neatest engine? That's the diesel version, of course.
Spinning for some reason.
Why is that squeaking?
Well, you see those two pumps on the front of the boiler? Those are supposed to be the air pumps for the air brakes on the real locomotive, but in this case, it's the water pumps that pump the water into the boiler.
Well, that's neat.
He's repurposed
Wow,
that,
yeah.
and so if you, it makes that kind of squeaking sound. But what it's doing is it's pumping the water from the water tanks into the boiler.
That's cool.
Doesn't that sound cool?
Yep.
With a mallet, you don't get a chuff like you do in a regular steam train. See, you don't hear the chuff hardly because there's too much going on. You know, you have 4 cylinders chuffing at the same time, sort of. See, we have enough of a curve here, it ought to really swing out. Some. There's trees across here. How you like that expanse over there?
What was that?
BLM, you do.
was neat.
That was cool.
I love that giant engine. We have got to get out there and see it actually running.
Right.
We've seen the engine, we
Right.
just haven't actually seen it running. And now that we've seen video of it running, it's like, whoa, we got to see that when it's actually
Definitely.
running. So
Definitely.
we got to get back out there, and they said, in fact, that they will fire the engine up and so on, and we'll go ahead and figure it out, get everything scheduled, and go out there and do that.
Right.
So that's going to be really neat.
That would be fun.
Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, pop over to the channel, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And the easy way to subscribe is with the blue button, which is going to be popping in here in just a second. You ready for it? Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet, and we hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you on Tuesday, because we're going to be looking at some more brass engines.
Right.
See you then.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.